Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video on my channel, Hairliciously. If you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to subscribe so you guys are updated on hair loss and hair transplant topics, as well as updates on current hair loss treatments in the pipelines. Visit my website at hairliciously.com to purchase a microneedling device, which is scientifically proven to stimulate hair growth, my low-level laser therapy cap, DHT blocking shampoo, conditioner, and serum, hair growth vitamins, and a few other products to help those who are losing hair. In today's video, I wanted to give you guys an update on Kintor Pharmaceuticals' topical non-steroidal anti-androgen called KX-826, also known as Pyrilutamide. As you guys know, the only FDA-approved hair loss medications in the US are finasteride, which is a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, which lowers scalp and systemic DHT levels, and then we have a growth stimulant, Minoxidil. To this day, even after more than 2 decades, we still don't have better hair loss treatments, let alone an FDA-approved hair loss medication that directly targets the androgen receptor. And this is kind of like where Kintor Pharmaceutical can come in and fill that void and give us another arsenal that we can add to our hair loss treatment stack to slow down the progression of androgenic alopecia. Now, because anti-androgens can prevent testosterone, DHT, and other endogenous androgens from binding to androgen receptors in the hair follicles, the chances of it actually going systemic is very minimal. And it can potentially open up doors for those people who either may have experienced adverse side effects from taking a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor like finasteride or dutasteride, most particularly due to sexual dysfunction, or for those who have not responded favorably. And because it works in a different mechanism of action, you can actually combine it with a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor and a growth stimulant to maximize your hair growth potential and preventative measures. A 5-AR inhibitor like finasteride or dutasteride is going to be pretty effective in most people who are taking it and slowing down for the progression of hair loss. But you have to realize that there are still going to be remnants of scalp and even serum DHT levels and other androgens that are circulating in the system, let alone a spike in testosterone levels, which is still androgenic in nature. So for someone who has experiencing, aggressive type of hair loss, or for someone who no longer responds to treatment, throwing in an anti-androgen to target the androgen receptors from binding to androgens can greatly help slow down the progression of hair loss and also give you that extra layer of protection that 5-AR inhibitors cannot offer. So let me just give you guys a quick recap before I give you guys the update on KX-826. A few months ago, I did a video on Kintor Pharma, and they completed their phase 1 clinical trials in China last year. Results showed that it was very safe and didn't cause any major side effects in humans. Their phase 2 clinical trials was also successful. It was completed to assess the efficacy and safety of KX-826 in 120 males with androgenic alopecia. The primary endpoint for the trial was to change from baseline to non-vellus target area hair counts at week 24 in comparison with placebo. The majority of the adverse side effects were mild and no serious adverse event was reported. It was also well tolerated amongst the individuals who were taking it, and no new safety signals were observed. So for phase 3 clinical trials, 5 milligram of KX-826 was the agreed dosage. And as of January 2022, they announced the first male subject had received the dosing in their phase 3 pivotal trial of Pyrilutamide. Now, phase 3 clinical trials is going to include randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled parameters. There's going to be a total of 416 male subjects with a duration treatment of 6 months. And then finally, a primary endpoint of change in number of non-vellus target area hair count from baseline to week 24. Now, typically, most hair loss treatment companies would provide results of their clinical trials as soon as it's readily available. But for some reason, when it comes to Kintor Pharma, they actually, instead of giving the results for their phase 2 clinical trials, they actually went straight to phase 3 without giving us any information on the results of their phase 2 clinical trials. But there is good news. I did find out that Kintor is finally going to release the results of their phase 2 clinical trials in June of 2022. So in the next couple months, we should finally see how effective or ineffective KX-826 has been for the treatment of androgenic alopecia. There also has been some speculation that I've been reading online that the results of Pyrilutamide has been compared to that of oral dutasteride. And if this is actually indeed true, I feel like this is incredible news because dutasteride is much more potent than finasteride, blocks more scalp and serum DHT levels, and also promotes more hair growth than finasteride. So if Pyrilutamide has similar efficacy to that of oral dutasteride, pairing the two treatments together that work in different mechanisms of action is very likely to halt the progression of further hair loss for most individuals. But like I said, this is not confirmed, and until we see the results from Kintor Pharmaceuticals, it will remain unsubstantiated. So with that said, Kintor Pharma is also currently undergoing phase 2 clinical trials for KX-826 in the US for male androgenetic alopecia. And like I mentioned before, this is by far one of my most favorite hair loss treatment companies. They've been moving extremely fast with their clinical trials in both China and in the US. Far quicker than any other hair loss companies that I've been researching. And if everything goes as planned, Kintor is looking forward to finally completing their planned 416 subjects enrolled by June of 2022. And the follow-up medical evaluation, which is going to be 6-month study plus a month of follow-up within this year. And the good news is that if there are no hiccups along the way with good efficacy, I can foresee this treatment being available as soon as 2023, 2024. And I'm sure some of you guys already know this about Kintor, but they also are undergoing clinical development for GT20029, which is an androgen receptor degrader that degrades the AR protein, and it reduces the sensitivity of AR to androgens without systemic exposure and accumulation of the drug. So this also holds a lot of promise, I think even more so than KX-826, in the future of treating hair loss, yet through another incredible mechanism of action. Because being able to target and degrade certain proteins in general, not just for treating hair loss, is going to open up the path in being able to, target specific proteins in the body that can cause abnormal growth or cancer, and therefore theoretically curing a plethora of diseases. Now, as far as updates for GT20029, Kintor announced that they have dosed the first batch of subjects in its phase 1 clinical trials in China as of July 2021. And then more recently, in February 2022, Kintor also announced that they have dosed the first subjects for GT20029's phase 1 clinical trial for the treatment of androgenetic alopecia and acne in the US. And because Kintor is clinically testing in both China and in the US, these drugs will become readily available once phase 3 clinical trials in China are completed. So that's basically kind of like the update that I wanted to give you guys on Kintor. It's not much, but we do have something to look forward, especially in June. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you the results from their phase 2 clinical trials. I really hope that it's been what we've been all waiting for. I'm really hoping that it won't be a disappointment. And I really honestly doubt that this will be the case because especially if they've progressed into phase 3 clinical trials, I am going to remain optimistic at this point. It seems like they've been on track to being the very first ever FDA-approved topical anti-androgen for the treatment of hair loss. The other one that I've been following, and some of you guys probably already know this, but it is CB0301. But we haven't really heard any updates on their phase 3 clinical trials. And when I checked Brisula's website last time, it said that discussions were still ongoing and that they expect to commence phase 3 clinical trials sometime in the second half of 2022. So hopefully Brisula also is going to be able to speed things up. But as of now, I am going to keep my eyes on KX-826, Pyrilutamide. And once this treatment is readily available to the public, I am most likely going to add it to my hair loss treatment regimen, just so that I can kind of get that extra layer of protection from an anti-androgen standpoint. And I would highly recommend others to also look into topical anti-androgens, especially if you really want to stop hair loss in its tracks, and add on something that works in a different mechanism of action other than a 5-AR inhibitor. But that pretty much wraps up this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all of your support. If you like this content, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave me some comments if you have any questions. And once June comes around, hopefully I will have some incredible news about Kintor's KX-826 regarding their phase 3 clinical trials. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Take care.